So Miss Lyric Smith is online with us. You look beautiful. We're going to turn it over to you to start with the pledge, and then we'll backtrack and have some introductions of you. Go right on ahead, Miss Smith.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Best pledges that I have ever heard.
Thank you.
Outstanding job. And I believe your principal is on with us this evening. Let's make sure first. Do we have Miss Principal from Williams, Miss Ritter? Are you on with us? And do you want to give a little introduction to our student this evening?
Good evening, everyone. I am so excited to introduce Lyric Smith. She is a super wildcat here at Williams. She is a 4th grade student. And just a great example of what we hope to have in all of our Wildcats here at Williams. And I will add that her mom is also a proud member of the Topeka Public Schools family. So 2 people that are a proud representative of our district.
So Ms. Smith, I'm going to turn it over to the board. For the board members to know, we always pick a student to do the pledge who is the child of a staff member. And she is the daughter of Dr. Pearson, the Topeka Public Schools audiologist, who will be reading the proclamation this evening. So we're excited about that. We're going to turn this one over to the board to ask Ms. Smith some questions.
Dr. Mickelson.
First off, thank you for reciting the pledge and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. One of my pet peeves is how I've never voiced this, and I should have voiced it long ago because we say the pledge every other week. The pledge has only a few commas in it, but everybody says it with about a dozen commas in it, and you said it properly, I think. So I'm appreciative of that. So Lyric, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I'd like to be a hairstylist when I grow up.
That'd be great. I could use a hairstylist. If you could figure out how to get me to grow a little more on top, I'd appreciate that too. Do you have a favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject is math.
Good. That's great. Well, thank you for leading us in the pledge tonight.
Anyone else?
Again, thank you, Ms. Smith. We're going to bring up your certificate. So this is going to be delivered to you on Monday. And the certificate says, Topeka Public Schools Certificate of Appreciation. We proudly recognize Lyric Smith for your service at the October board meeting. So again, congratulations. And we are so proud of you and what you're doing at Williams. At this time, we'll turn it back over to the school board.
Okay. This time we have a motion for adoption of the agenda.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second? It's been moved and second. Any discussion? Ready for the vote?
Vote is open. There we go. All votes are in and the motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, school highlights, Dr. Anderson.
Oh, we are so excited. You all know this is my favorite time of the board meeting. And so I asked the communications department to find the longest serving custodian and to create a Custodian Appreciation Day video. So please indulge as we share with you that video of the longest serving custodian in Topeka Public Schools.
I've done so much for 501, and so many, the jobs have changed so much because I've started out as a custodian. I've been a painter, done a lot of carpenter work. I even worked as one of the locksmiths, and I've been here for about 38 years. A lot of people don't realize that custodial work has its own rewards. You can look back and see what you have done, and you can actually take pride in the work that you have done as a custodian. And you may not see it this way, but when people walk in your building, they compare it to others. So you want to keep that building in the best condition you can so that you're not compared and looked down on. like as other buildings in comparison with other buildings. I just believe once you start something, you stick with it all the way through. And like I said, of all the jobs that I mentioned, I haven't had one that I didn't enjoy. I've always enjoyed what I've done, no matter what capacity it has been.
So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Robbins to share a little bit about our custodial team, and then we'll turn it over to the rest of our staff. Mr. Robbins, would you like to share a few comments about the custodial team as we celebrate Custodian Appreciation Day, which was October 2nd? This is just when the board meetings fall. Mr. Robbins?
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. You know, with us this evening, we have a number of our custodial staff on the screen. Certainly, along with them, we have our custodial supervisor, Mr. Nate Schaefer. We'll let him say a few words, but you know, as we look at celebrating custodians and the work that they do, one of the things that the pandemic has really highlighted is the value that our custodians bring to this school district. When you look at the cleanliness of our buildings and the fact that along with that cleanliness and disinfecting on a daily basis, we've been able to maintain a safe and secure environment for our students and our staff each and every day. And that's a tribute to the commitment and dedication that our custodians bring to their respective buildings each and every day. We've been able to maintain an environment that has made coming to school each and every day a safe and secure place for people to look toward and to work in, learn in, and that doesn't happen without a tremendous amount of effort and hard work. And the person who really helps to oversee that and direct that activity is Nate Schaefer. And I'd like to turn the mic over to Nate to say a few words about his team.
Thank you, LR. You know, I'd like to mirror some of the things that he said. Our custodial staff goes above and beyond to ensure that all of our buildings are not only clean, but that they are an environment where our kids and staff can feel safe and secure in the time of COVID. So, you know, they've done an excellent job over the past couple of years, and I expect that we'll continue to do the good work that we've done so far. So just want to say thank you to all of them for their hard work.
We're going to turn this over to our board to entertain questions. And I have to tell you, the 38-year custodian, I did not think we'd find someone after that served for 38 years. It's pretty impressive. So thank you so much for all that you do. After the questions, we'll share with you the certificate. And again, happy Custodian Appreciation Day. I'll turn it over to our board.
Any comments, Mr. Munoz?
I wish that Mr. Jefferson was here on with us, because I'd ask him whether or not he had served at Lafayette Elementary, because he looks really familiar. You know, you as a young person, you remember your teachers, you remember principals, but I think you also remember custodians and the work that they do. And he looks familiar, along with Mr. Snyder from when I was there. So I wish he was here, but regardless, thank you to all of them for keeping you know, our buildings spotless, especially right now where we know that with COVID that it is equally more important to make things make sure that things are in order. So thank you, everybody.
Stuart Campbell.
I said this last year, so my fellow board members have heard me state this, but I want to reiterate, and for everybody who's listening for the first time tonight, this comment of mine. I have great admiration and affection for custodial staff, because my grandfather my maternal grandfather, he was a custodian. That was his career in Winfield Public Schools, little town outside of Wichita. And so as a child, I remember going to school with him and just seeing how hard he worked and how much pride he had in that career. And anyway, I look at you all now and I'm reminded of him and the joy it brought him. And I just can't thank you enough.
Ms. Bowley.
Well, I remember when Mr. Jefferson was a painter for our district, and he was painting at Avondale East. And I just noticed how much relationship he built with the students. He would stop and talk with them, and they would stop and he would answer their questions. And he was just so personable with those students. And of course, he was in our building for a while because he was painting it. And I had asked him to come into the classroom and talk to them about working for Topeka Public Schools and what he does for his job. And he came in and gave a presentation to the students, and they were just so excited. And by the time he left, I had several people in the classroom that wanted to be painters. I don't know if they are, but they might be, because he was very good. Every building I walk into in Topeka Public Schools is beautiful. It looks shiny and clean, and some of them are older buildings, and that's not an easy task. And it's only because our custodians take so much pride in their work home to keep it safe for our students. And it has been a huge job the last 2 years. And they have stepped up, and I have not received one complaint from them. They've just been very proud of the efforts that they have put in to keep our staff safe and our students safe and keeping our doors open. And I just appreciate them so much, and I know the whole board does. So thank you and your whole team for doing such remarkable things in a pandemic. Sometimes we forget that's what it is, but they have done remarkable things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Schaefer, again, we want to thank you for all that you do for Topeka Public Schools and giving oversight to such an exceptional group of custodians. With Custodian Appreciation Day being October the 2nd, actually every school has acknowledged and appreciated their custodians in their own buildings. And so with that being said, as we close on out, again, thank you for all that you do. And we look forward to a continued amazing rest of the year under your leadership, sir. The certificate that's being delivered to you will be delivered to you directly, and it will acknowledge Custodian Appreciation Day. We don't normally give a certificate to the leader for any particular person over a day, but this year is a little different. And I think the pandemic 2 years in is a little different. So on Monday, that certificate will be delivered to you directly, just thanking you, but also acknowledging Custodian Appreciation Day, dated back to October 2nd. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Our next highlight is it's Physical Therapist Month, and the proclamation is being read by Ms. Claus, and we're going to pull her on up, and she's going to share a little bit about physical therapists in the district, how many we have, and then she'll proceed with reading the proclamation.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Kimberly Klaus, and I'm one of the physical therapist assistants here on staff for USD 501. And I actually have our other physical therapist assistant. This is Perry Krogman. Hi. And we are just delighted that you guys are honoring and recognizing us as a staff. There are 2 of us physical therapist assistants for the district, and then 2 of our physical therapists, Jenna Hamilton and Marie Young. So we love serving the scholars and all of the students across the district, elementary through high school. So thank you again.
Thank you for being here. As you proceed with the proclamation, we'll pull it on up here at the very end. I trust some board members may have questions about how do 4 people actually serve this entire district. So we'll turn it over to the board as soon as you're done with the proclamation.
Sounds wonderful. We'll be happy to answer any questions. So the proclamation of the Topeka Unified School District USD 501 National Physical Therapy Month, October 2021. Whereas National Physical Therapy Month provides an opportunity for physical therapists and physical therapist assistants nationwide to educate their communities about who physical therapists are and what they contribute. And whereas National Physical Therapy Month has grown in popularity over the years, and it is now a recognized celebration in the National Health Observances calendar. And whereas physical therapists are experts in restoring and improving the motion that is so crucial to our students' well-being in many cases without surgery or medication. And whereas physical therapists can help our students address physical challenges, including but not limited to loss of flexibility, strength, and balance, and can teach students how to prevent or manage their health so that they will achieve an improved quality of life. And whereas the goal of Topeka Public Schools is to develop our students' educational, social, emotional, and physical well-being. And
Now they'll go right on ahead.
Is that okay? Okay. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Unified School District number 501, Topeka, Kansas, does proclaim October 2021 as National Physical Therapy Month in recognition of the fact that our educational program is strengthened by the windows of opportunity provided through physical therapy services. And be it furthermore resolved that a copy of this proclamation be included in the minutes of the Board of Education meeting October 21st, 2021. In witness thereof, we, the Board of Education of Topeka Unified School District number 501, do hereby affix the signature of our president and the official seal of the Board of Education this 21st day of October 2021.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to our board president.
Any comments? Dr. Bonbury.
Who's a typical patient you will see? Are they athletic injuries? How many will you see a day? There's 4 of you and 12,000 students.
That's a wonderful question. Yes. So I would say typically we are serving students who are either have like congenital defects or they have been diagnosed with certain birth defects, whatnot. They're working on their gross motor milestones. Very rarely, actually, are we serving your scholars that have like athletic injuries or needing to rehabilitate after something of that sort. You will typically see them either seeing an athletic trainer or seeing an outpatient physical therapist. But here in the school, it's been such a blessing to be able to serve students within their function here at school, making sure that they have appropriate chairs and positioning so that they can be attentive to learning at their desk level, at the carpet level with their peers, making sure that they're able to ambulate in and out of the school, make sure with proper like walkers and devices of such nature or wheelchairs. We also have had the pleasure of finding some adaptive swings so that recess is more enjoyable for a lot of our students as well, so that they can integrate and play with their peers out on recess as well. So a lot of just a variety.
How many will you each see a day?
Oh, that's a great question. It does vary day to day. I would say on average 8 to 9 students, sometimes 10, and we are kind of dividing and conquering. So we are throughout the district paired up with PT and PTA and serving just wherever kind of the need is most. You'll probably find us mostly in your preschools, but we're kind of scattered throughout too. So
None of you have developed carpal tunnel syndrome?
not quite yet, no. We're trying to protect our joints the best as possible. So good body mechanics, everyone. We encourage you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. What drew you and others like you to this sort of work? I imagine you can do this in lots of different settings. What drew you to public schools and 501 specifically?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Well, I am actually a product of 501 myself. I attended McEachran Elementary, French Middle School, and Topeka West. So yay, I returned from Kansas City area working for a pediatric hospital there and came back to my homeland of Topeka and just was elated at the opportunity of just kind of taking what I learned over there in pediatrics and applying it to a whole different world of school-based. So it's been honestly just a great blessing to my life to get to kind of take what I've built there personally and bring it over into this school district. So it's been really fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed it and staying with pediatrics for sure. So.
And Ms. Klaus, can we hear from our other team member?
Absolutely.
Yes, I always knew that I wanted to work with kids and I was interested in physical therapy. Unfortunately, there's not very many pediatric opportunities in Topeka. So I jumped on the chance to be able to go in the schools and work with these kids. I've had to draw for special needs kids as well. So this was gold when I found this job opening.
Thank you. And Ms. Klaus, it's awesome that you're a Topeka West graduate. I don't know that I realized that. That is absolutely fantastic. Wow.
Well, thank you all both for being here with 501. We're lucky to have you, and most especially our students are lucky to have you. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate all of your continued support and we love serving these kiddos. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you for your service. We're going to pull up the certificate as well for School Physical Therapist Month. And I believe because we have proclamation, I might have mixed that up because it really is just the proclamation. And so we're going to get the proclamation back to Dr. Harrington to post in the appropriate location. Thank you for your service. Thank you for returning back to Topeka Public Schools as we continue to bring talent right back to the area. Wow. All right, so as we move on to our next month of appreciation, it's Audiology Awareness Month, and Dr. Pearson's amazing daughter got us started. Now, Dr. Pearson will end off the school highlights. Dr. Pearson, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect, thank you. I'm happy to be here as well. I'll go ahead and start with the proclamation. Proclamation of Topeka United School District, number 501, National Audiology Awareness Month, October 2021, whereas over 36 million Americans live with disabling hearing loss that reduces the ability of a person to communicate with others, which can contribute to feelings of loneliness, isolation, frustration, and whereas the American Academy of Audiology started the Audiology Awareness Month in 2008 to generate awareness of hearing health, as well as to stress the importance of hearing loss prevention. And whereas audiologists are the primary healthcare professionals who evaluate, diagnose, test, and manage hearing loss and balance disorders in adults and children. And whereas Audiology Awareness Month will raise and generate public awareness of the assessments and treatments that are available for hearing loss and encourage the promotion of hearing loss prevention measures to maintain our hearing health. And whereas the goal of Topeka Public Schools is to develop our students' educational, social, emotional, and physical well-being. Now, therefore, it is resolved that the Board of Education of Unified School District number 501, Topeka, Kansas, does proclaim October 2021 as National Audiology Awareness Month. Keep going.
You can go right on ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In recognition of the fact that our educational program is strengthened by the windows of opportunity provided through audiology services, and be it further resolved that a copy of this proclamation be included in the minutes of the Board of Education meeting October 21st, 2021. In witness whereof, we, the Board of Education of Topeka Unified School District, number 501, do hereby affix the signature of our president and the official seal of the Board of Education this 21st day of October 2021.
Thank you. And Dr. Pearson is exceptional in many ways and has just a wonderful story. So we're going to just turn it over to, first, can you share a little bit about how many audiologists there are? So I think that'll be the first surprise. And any other comment that you'd like to say, then we'll turn it over to the board president.
Yeah, thank you. I am the sole audiologist for USD 501. It's just me.
So can you share a little bit about, how that works with it being just you and your story of returning to the district? And then we'll turn it over to our board president.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So I could not do this without the support of many different groups in the district. So I work very closely with nursing services. So nursing services are actually those who are out in the schools who are able to complete the first kind of 2 levels of our hearing screenings that are required for us to remain in compliance. So huge shout out to nursing services. I also work very closely with early intervention. So that team, when we're doing the preschool intervention screenings, and we also are handling the TARC screenings as well. So we see those students. I've got an amazing secretary who also serves the speech language pathologist team. So those are the main teams, but also I work with every professional who works with a student with hearing loss in the district. So we have 2 teachers of the deaf who I work very closely with to make sure that everything is handled in the buildings. So while I'm the only audiologist, I'm supported, and I have the ability to support an amazing amount of school staff as well to help serve our students.
Thank you. We'll turn this over to Reverend Williams, but she is certainly the walking image of working as a team for continuous improvement. And she's just exceptional, really had her choice of many places to go, and she chose Topeka, and we are excited that she's with us.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Pearson. How are you?
Hi, Rev. I'm well. How are you?
I'm looking up here. I'm looking at your dad.
I know you are.
I owe him a phone call. So, any comments? Ms. Bowley.
It is incredible that you do all of our students across the district. And that is incredible. Thank you for your hard work, because that's what it has to be.
Oh, no, thank you. Like I said, I have the support of all of the districts. So everyone working together makes it happen.
Well, just thank you to all of you, because that is just such an important piece when our students can't hear what's going on in the classroom for a majority of reasons. It makes a difference in education. So having you as that person who can help the staff and the students in their learning is incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
I miss the days when people would come and want to be celebrated here at the board meetings. It doesn't feel the same looking at the rectangles, but please thank everybody who is supporting you for doing such a great job. Thank you.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Dr. Mickelson.
Dr. Pearson, thanks for all your service to our students and their development. Just out of curiosity, what percentage of kids have some form of hearing loss?
Oh, I'd have to look up the exact percentage. It's the second leading congenital disorder. So, I have a caseload currently of about 60 to 70 Topeka Public School students who have hearing loss. And I know there are more. We're just waiting to kind of find them. So we have about 60 to 70, but it's the second leading congenital disorder.
And so you typically pick that up at preschool screenings or early elementary levels, I would hope. Is that accurate?
Yes, we hope to catch it at birth, but oftentimes we're the second time that student is receiving a kind of a comprehensive hearing screening right before they enter the school district. So our hope is to catch them, about preschool, but we often find that academics change about 3rd grade. And so we can start to see some different types of some different areas where they're starting to fall behind. And I always say, if we have any academic concerns, let's check hearing first.
So do all of our students get a hearing test?
They get hearing tests in certain intervals. So there's a state guideline that we follow that recommends that we see students at least every 3 years, but we see them at certain intervals. So they will get a hearing test multiple times throughout their time at Topeka Public Schools.
Okay. Thank you again for all your service.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Stuart Campbell.
So thank you. Like everyone else said, thank you so much for your service to our district and our students. And I'm really curious why you chose to work in Topeka Public Schools.
Sure. So I actually come from a long line of educators, and I love being in the schools and I love working with kids. So it just kind of aligned that when the opportunity presented itself, I jumped on it. I was initially working in a clinical setting, but like I said, when I had the opportunity to come work in a school, I jumped on it. What we do on the advocating side, so my ability to advocate for the students with hearing loss is really impactful and meaningful to me. So I love the opportunity to advocate for the students.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? I really appreciate your efforts and dedication. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Pearson, for all that you do, both not only as an audiologist, but also as an amazing parent. It is wonderful to have you here this evening. And again, happy Audiologist Month.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. That concludes our highlights for this evening. I'll turn it back over to you, Reverend Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Next item on the agenda is public communications. Do we have any?
We have no comment.
Okay, thank you. That takes us down to disposition of business by consent. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special projects and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, ready for the vote?
Open. All votes are in. And
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is superintendent's report. Dr. Anderson.
We'll be starting with the video of the Shawnee County College Fair, and then Dr. Morrell and Mrs. Johnston will entertain questions, and then we'll go to our next item on the agenda.
Well, it's just really important for them to understand what the opportunities are for them, the options that they have, and the earlier that they can, get an idea of what they want to do and where they might want to go, the better, especially for them and for their parents. And we talked about affordability and, again, options.
Right now, we have 86 universities, trade schools, businesses, and community college here at TCAL for our students to be able to come in and experience those in a career college fair setting.
Oh, this is so exciting. So the college fair we hosted for anyone across the county that wants to attend, to see literally hundreds of young people coming, finding where they're going to go is not only hopeful for the future, but also inspiring. So if a student hasn't had a visit, student hasn't had the opportunity to connect with an admissions rep, if a student doesn't know what scholarships they're eligible for, just bringing them here makes this one place where they can get all those resources.
It's going really well. I'm having a lot of fun seeing all the opportunities that I can have, meeting different people, and really looking at the scholarship opportunities. My favorite part about it is seeing all the different people and really looking at the different opportunities, because there are many different things that I want to go into. So I'm excited to see what I can do.
I've been to a few colleges that were a lot more insightful than I thought they would be, and actually really did broaden my choices as to what I might do in the future. Because I think it's better to be planned and be ready early, because it's better to be ready than to get ready.
I feel like it's a really big help just because a lot of times people don't get these kind of opportunities to come and talk to colleges and many different colleges just about their career, and I feel like this would be a really good help for my future.
As the video closes, I will share with you every board meeting, we have a strategic plan item. This strategic plan item is college and career readiness. And you'll see all those universities that are listed. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Johnston and Dr. Morrell. If there's any general comment beyond the video, then we'll really just turn it over to the board to answer questions. We were excited because we weren't able to do this last year. So this year we made intentional effort with a great deal of social distancing. Their creative planning really allowed us to provide something for the entire county. So all districts around us were invited. Any general comments that you'd like to make, Ms. Johnston and Dr. Morrell?
Well, I would just like to say we were happy to, afford the opportunity for our students to have the college and career fair, both our students and students from around the county. And it was a total team effort, both from setup to tear down. So just a shout out to the TCALC staff and all of the members of our staff and students as well.
Thank you. And Ms. Johnston?
It was a fantastic event, and we were so appreciative of all the universities, technical schools, businesses, of being willing to come out in person this year. We had such a great response of people wanting to come out and make connections with our kids. I've heard a lot of times from the universities that this is our favorite college and career fair. The students here are always very engaging. They ask really great questions, and we're always very excited to come to Topeka. So we were very thankful that we were able to have this year.
Thank you. And as we turn this over to the board, a couple of things you'll want to notice, and I'm just going to point to what's in the strategic plan that you saw on that screen. One of the items was regarding careers. It's a big piece in our strategic plan and ensuring that we have internships and opportunities, job fairs. And so you'll see that one of the focus items was one of the companies, and perhaps several of the companies that were hiring as well. And so students had an opportunity to go to colleges, but they also had an opportunity to apply to different careers, including applications that we received actually for Topeka Public Schools. So we are excited about that component. We added that component my first year, second year. So that's just really grown under the continued leadership of Dr. Morrell and his team and Ms. Johnston. So we're excited about that. The other piece that you'll notice that is in the strategic plan is starting their career pathways and the individual plan of study at middle school. And so you saw middle school students at the fair, 8th graders, and really it's focused on high school and all county members, but really being able to embed some level of middle school opportunity. And we look forward to broadening that. We'll have to think through how to have that fair in a way that the space is conducive to not only the entire county, but also to as many students as we can get there throughout the district. Those are two pieces I want to mention, and I'll turn it over to the board president to ask questions of Dr. Morrell and Ms. Johnson.
Any questions, comments? Mrs. Bowley.
I just thought it was really exciting to hear that one student say, I was excited to see how many things I could really try in my life, how, the opportunities that are out there. And I think a lot of times we don't see much further than beyond our family when we're thinking of careers and what's the possibilities. So to open up that floor like that is really exciting. And it was obvious for the students that were interviewed that they were excited to have that opportunity. Thank you for taking on that effort to put that together. And I guess we need to thank your custodian too. And this custodian,
Absolutely.
I'm sure he put away a lot of tables and chairs. So, but it was great. I just love that idea of middle school students coming and already exploring what they might need to be thinking about in their futures. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Munoz.
I want to echo that it's interesting to have individuals as young as middle school students to begin to think about that. What are they going to do once they graduate? Although it might seem like a long ways away, it's not really. But I think also part of it is this discussion that's happening between young people and their parents, right? And being able to be there and meet those parents where they are and meet students and beginning to have them to imagine what that future might look like, right? And entertain ideas for new futures that maybe they don't know yet. And so when I talk with individuals in our community, I talk with electricians and plumbers and individuals who tell me that they are in need of individuals to draw to their their particular segment of the economy, and that these individuals who start there can go on to earn an incredible, a decent living for themselves, and probably a life-changing living for themselves and for their future families. And so one of the things that I'm focused on, and I'll keep repeating it here, is that it's great for us to have these higher education opportunities. And I really want to focus on all of those employers that we have locally here who are looking for individuals who go straight into the workforce. And so the more that we can do that, I think the more that we can see life-changing impact on our for our students who are looking for that sort of opportunity. So thank you all for what you do. I appreciate it.
Stuart Campbell.
Well, that looked like a lot of fun. I'm very curious. So you said that the invitation went out to students from across the county. Is that right? So I'm curious if you know, like how more or less like how many students came who outside of 501?
Yes, so we had Silver Lake, Seaman, Washburn Rural, Lebo Waverly, and Royal Valley come, and they comprised probably around 160 of the 750 students that came through our door.
Oh, wow.
Good.
That's great. That's really exciting, especially Lebo Waverly. That's a few hours away, I think.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you.
Nice ride around the block.
As we close out, unless if there are not any other questions, there will be at a later time in the spring a presentation from Dr. Morell and Ms. Johnston on CTE, aligned again with our strategic plan, industry credentials, internships, and new programs that are occurring under TCALC. But for this particular purpose of really focusing on college and careers, I just want to make sure that we thank Dr. Gray and his team. Michael Williams, our new videographer, who moved straight out of college and into this particular position, along with Mr. Garrett, both being on the grounds. And of course, Dr. Gray's vision of capturing that on video tells the story so much better than we could have in this space. With that, as we move on from that particular item, we're going to transition on to our next item, which is the COVID-19 update. Previously, you had some questions about COVID-19 and whether mandates could occur. Mrs. Cope has done just a tremendous job in really researching all those pieces. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Cope to talk a little bit about COVID-19. As she prepares to report on that, I do want to acknowledge the booster clinic. Dr. Gray was pretty excited. That's probably why he was on the screen. Dr. Gray, do you want to share with us about the booster clinic, what that is and what happened today, sir? It was really all under his coordination that it occurred. So as he comes back on the screen and takes off his mute, I'll turn it over to Dr. Gray to give a quick update of what occurred today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. Yes, today we had an opportunity.
And you might still be on mute, sir, so I don't know that everyone on the screen can hear you.
Yes, okay. Today, thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. Yes, today we had an opportunity to participate in our staff booster clinic at Topeka High. It started at 8 o'clock and it ended at 3. And we had 439 individuals that were vaccinated. Again, staff came in, they were excited and very thankful to the district for just allowing the booster clinic to occur within the district.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. And with the help of Kansas Department of Health and Environment, we were able to have an amazing event during parent conference time. And we'll continue those partnerships and conversations to have discussions about how do we give accessible both not only the booster clinics, but also the flu shots right here in the school where people are already coming, making the schools the center of the community with those services. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Cope.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Reverend Williams, board members, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening regarding some of the questions that you had raised regarding mandatory COVID-19 vaccines for staff members. I would like to be able to come here this evening and say that I found all of the answers and it's crystal clear now what exactly it is that we're able to do, but unfortunately I can't do that. If you spend any length of time with me, I have about 3 or 4 little clips that I tend to say over and over again. One of them that really irritates people is, well, it depends, when they ask me a pretty straightforward question. Another one is that as a professor in law school told us, is that the law is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And oftentimes it takes a while for the law, and certainly case law, so cases going through the courts, to get clarifying decisions about laws that have been passed. So right now, I don't know what mile of the marathon we're in, but we're not at the end of the marathon yet in determining what we are clearly able to do with mandatory vaccine. So I'm going to report to you kind of the information that I do have, and some questions that could stem from that. So as I'm sure you've all taken government classes and those sorts of things, so typically federal law is going to trump state law or local law. So we start with the federal law, which, as I mentioned before, is the EEOC, which has provided some guidance, which has not been updated for a while, that employers have the right to require new hires and or existing employees to get the COVID-19 vaccine as a condition of hire or continued employment. There is a big caveat to that, as there is. Any good law has a lot of really good exceptions as well. So that's our general rule, which is that you can require the vaccine. But the exception is that it has to comply with ADA and other anti-discrimination laws. So if somebody had a medical reason for not being able to get the vaccine, we would have to go through what is called the interactive accommodations process, have conversations with them and determine if there are reasonable accommodations that we can make to make sure that they can do their job with or without those reasonable accommodations, if they can perform those essential functions. Another portion would be religious exemptions. If somebody has a deeply held religious view or belief that prevented them from getting the vaccines, those would also be something that we would have to consider. And then finally would be, again, protected classes, which would be age, race, sex, those types of things, religion. If it was determined that a vaccine had what is called a disparate impact on a certain protected group, we would have to consider that as well. Whether access to vaccines and those types of things are negatively impacting a specific protected group, we would also have to consider that as a potential discrimination issue that we would have to address. So that's the federal law. Just briefly mention, I'm sure, and I can't remember the timing of it, but that President Biden did come out directing OSHA to adopt regulations or issue emergency rulings in regards to the federal mandate. The 100 employee rule does not apply to schools in Kansas or anywhere else. We do have some mandates that would apply to the Head Start program, and we are working on reviewing those guidelines and what will be required for Head Start. So that OSHA mandate doesn't necessarily apply in this case. So we're really relying on the EEOC portion. So then we transition to state law from federal law. So state law, we have a couple of things that we need to consider. So one is Senate Bill 159, Section 60, which I believe is what Dr. Mickelson was referring to regarding vaccine passports. The law the bill does not specifically state that employers cannot mandate vaccines for employees. What it does state is that no state agency can use state money to issue a COVID-19 vaccine passport to any individual. They cannot require an individual to use a COVID-19 vaccination passport within the state for any purpose, and they cannot deny access to a place accessible to the general public, including entry, education, travel, and services within the state. So I reached out to the general counsel at the Kansas Department of Education to see kind of what their interpretation was. One of the great things about bills and laws that are passed is often they're open to interpretation if the wording is not specific. So a couple of things jumped out to me. One, Are school districts considered a state agency? So that would be one question. We are definitely a governmental agency, but typically we are not seen as a state agency. We're more of a local entity or a municipality. The second question would be whether or not a vaccine mandate is the same as requiring a vaccine passport. And I don't know that, we're not necessarily requiring a vaccine mandate would not necessarily require someone to show, quote unquote, a passport to enter the school or something like that. And then the final question is under number 3, there's no mention of employment. It talks about entry, education, travel, and services within the state. So those would all be questions. KSDE's interpretation, their general counsel essentially indicated that they did not believe that it specifically states that it means an employer cannot require vaccinations for employees. But it certainly means that we could not require vaccines for students. But I think we've already kind of addressed that question already. Probably the most complicated question that we still have would be the Professional Negotiations Act, the PNA, our requirement to negotiate certain terms and conditions of employment with certified staff. With certified staff, there's a whole list within the statute of what we are mandatorily required to negotiate. So the question then becomes whether or not a vaccine mandate would be considered a term and a condition of employment. There has been at least one case that I have found in New Jersey that is addressing this. It's a separate bargaining law, so it's not the law, obviously, that we use, but it's at least some guidance. And what that court said in New Jersey, and again, it is persuasive law, it's not binding, so it's not anything that in Kansas that a Kansas court couldn't find something different. But it does give some guidance and some support. And what they state is that the vaccine mandate in and of itself is a managerial prerogative, meaning that the managers, you, could make a decision in regards to whether or not employees have to get the COVID-19 vaccine. There is a small, again, another exception to that, which is you could absolutely, what this court is saying is that an employer could absolutely say, employees, you are required to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Where the negotiation piece could come in is discipline, leave time, and other things that are connected to that. So if, for example, an employee refuses to get the vaccine, what is going to be the discipline that we can do that? Is that something we would have to negotiate? If we are going to say, if you get the vaccine and you get sick, and we can tie that to your workplace, it's clear that that's where you were exposed, we're going to give you extra time off if you get the vaccine, but not if you don't get the vaccine. Well, leave is something that is mandatorily negotiable. Would that be something that we would have to mandatorily negotiate? So those questions remain. So, and again, this is one case that has been decided in New Jersey. I've never been to New Jersey. I have a feeling that maybe it's not the same as Kansas. Don't know that for sure. It is something that, again, certainly guidance, and I have been in contact with a couple of other attorneys who work in this area of the law, and they have also indicated that seems to be the direction that at least labor boards and possibly some courts are leaning towards, which is the actual mandate is managerial prerogative, but however, all of the kind of the strings attached to it, all of those other little pieces could lead to negotiation issues. So that is kind of what I found out in the research that I have done, and I think dug a little deeper into some of those questions. I do want to say, I know you had some questions about testing and that sort of thing. What we kind of decided is let's focus this conversation on kind of the mandatory testing piece, address those issues. And then if we have questions about testing after that, we could address that at another board meeting, but just really focus on the mandatory vaccine piece tonight. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Dr. Mickelson.
I hope I don't put you on the spot because this is tangentially related, but so President Biden's, I think, mandated, now I'm not sure is it legal or not, I don't know, but that employers that have more than 100 employees mandate vaccination or weekly testing. Now, does that law hey, it's not a law because I took government once. I've never been to law school.
There was an executive order ordering, yes, that there be regulations issued.
So is that going to apply to us?
No, that's the one that I was referring to. My understanding and my research is that the governmental entities, so state entities and municipalities like us, that would not apply to us.
And if I understood you correctly, the state law that the Commissioner of Education suggested we would fall under, in your assessment, doesn't apply to us. The law that was passed last legislative session said school districts can't mandate that their teachers get or their staff get vaccinated. Does or does not apply to us?
I guess a couple of things. One, there is not a law that says specifically that school districts cannot mandate vaccinations for their staff. I did a search, I checked with other people. Another one of my little quips, it's really hard to prove a negative. So it's one of those where, am I just missing it? Or is it not there? And got some confirmation that it's not there. So I guess that piece is that doesn't exist. What does exist is this vaccine passport piece, which has some questions of what state agencies can do, and whether or not, even if we're considered a state agency, whether it specifically prohibits a vaccine mandate versus vaccine passports. So I think there's a couple of questions. At least the General Counsel of KSDE seemed to imply that he did not read it as specifically prohibiting vaccine mandates. Now, if it was litigated and a judge decided something, but that is, at least, I think there are at least some gray areas that I don't know that there's anything we can specifically point to that absolutely prohibits a vaccine mandate. And I can tell you, I do believe, if my sources are correct, that KCK recently did pass a vaccine mandate for their staff.
So if I understand your assessment, if we elected to, we could. The issues then become if people elect not to follow the mandate, what are the consequences? Is that simplified?
Yes, you obviously did not go to law school because we require a much lengthier explanation. But yes, that would be an accurate way. We need to be, that I don't think there's anything that prohibits or prevents a vaccine mandate. The question then would be, we need to be mindful and understand, the exceptions that would apply.
Right. I mean, I think we all, we understand there are exceptions, and they would certainly be some within a district our size. So, okay, thank you for that clarification.
These exceptions really make no sense. Dr. Samuel Crumbine was probably the first public health officer in Kansas in the early 1900s. And one of his sayings was, the health of us all depend on the health of each of us. I remember taking the sugar cube with the pink droplet in it for polio vaccine. I didn't want to get polio. My parents didn't want to get polio. I got the smallpox vaccine. I didn't want to get smallpox. I didn't want anybody around me getting smallpox. I don't understand the reluctance. I really think we ought to charge teachers $200 more health insurance per month if they don't get a vaccine. If they don't love their neighbor, who are they going to love? Surely not themselves, because the risks of the vaccine are minuscule compared to the risk of getting COVID. Mandate or not, I think we ought to require it. I think another option, raise their health insurance costs, because they get hospitalized, it's 10 to 15 grand a day in the ICU. That's cheap, let alone quarantining their entire classroom. I've got 2 letters here. I think we all probably got the 2 letters. Students at Hope Street Academy wanted a lottery. Well, when do we have to pay somebody to protect themselves, their neighbors, their relatives, their friends? It just makes no sense. Did fake book really affect everybody that much? What in the world is going on with us? We all clamored to get smallpox vaccine and polio vaccine. If I had any hair, I'd tear it out. Thanks for letting me speak my pieces.
Yeah. So thank you for that update. That was confusing. No, seriously, it was it was very informative, and it also was like, wow, so many considerations in a lot of gray area. So I was following you, and I really appreciate it. And you're funny also when you give these reports. So I appreciate that as well. Okay, I don't know who to ask this to. So I don't know if this is a council question, but when you talk about the P&A, the negotiated agreement. So let's say that we were to require that all our staff receive the COVID-19 vaccine. Would our union need to like meet with their members prior to that? Is this, I mean, like, do we know like how would this, I don't know if this is an LR question, if this is a Mr. Gibson question for NEAT. So take it away.
Yeah, I think I can address that. So I think there's the legal answer, and then the obviously wanting to work in cooperation with the union. So the legal answer, again, if we're relying on at least the little guidance that we have so far, and if we make the assumption that it's a legitimate exercise of managerial prerogative to do the vaccine mandate, we would, that piece could be done, and then I think it could happen one of 2 ways. We could either voluntarily agree to reopen negotiations and kind of, for lack of a better term, hammer out the details of what discipline would look like if there was a refusal, or leave, whatever those details would need to be done to mandatorily negotiate those, or it becomes a question of, we don't necessarily think that, we think all of this falls under our managerial prerogative, and we're going to move forward with that and address grievances as they come. Certainly, I don't think that would be, that's legal. I don't know, we can versus should we do that. I don't think that would necessarily be the approach we would want to take. That's the legal analysis. If this is something that the board was really considering, I think that would be I think there's still meetings with the union occasionally that includes board members. That might be a good opportunity to ask some of those questions to see where they would be at on the issue.
I just wanted to jump in. It surprised me when you said that KCK had something along these lines. I looked it up and the policy was highly encourage staff and others to get vaccinated against COVID. And if they don't have proof on file with the district by November 19th, which we've not got there yet, they'd be required to participate in weekly COVID testing. But again, the key word is highly encouraged there. So that was one of a number of different options that they had to go with, and they ended with that one.
That concludes our report on the COVID-19 update. If I may, Reverend Williams, unless there's anything else for Ms. Cope regarding that COVID-19 update, the next item before you get to it, Native American land acknowledgement, when the board does begin their discussion, I want to make sure to give some context around that particular item so that you know what you're discussing. Yes, sir. So may I proceed? All right. So as we proceed, the Equity Council previously met and talked about land acknowledgements. We'll give you an example of that. Many universities, K-State being one of them, has that in place. We're pulling up the K-State one. If you look on their diversity and multicultural and student affairs page, you'll see what a land acknowledgement may look like, which really it tells you the tribal land on which that university sits. And it's really a respectful step to honor that tribe and that where that land sits. Another one that I'm going to go ahead and pull up tells you what a land acknowledgement is as well. So the Equity Council had a conversation about land acknowledgements, and they'll have a speaker at the very next Equity Council. So we shared we would be informing you of what was discussed so that you have some discussion around this, because we'd like to bring this back at the next meeting, which is also the meeting where we have the proclamation in November. So you'll be having our staff members that address our Native American students here. And that is the time where we will be asking you to take action on this land acknowledgement piece. And so land acknowledgement, as you can see on the northwestern site, which is a really nice site, it shares that a land acknowledgement really is just a formal statement that recognizes the respect of the Indigenous people as tradition stewards of the land and that relationship that exists between Indigenous people and their traditional territories. And here's what it means to the members of the Native American Indigenous people. It really is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those whose territory you reside on. And it's a way of honoring the Indigenous people as well. So with that brief description of what a land acknowledgement is, and we'll take that off the screen. Ms. Strom, who is our most recent, in and out, but Mrs. Strom, who's our most recent assistant principal at Robinson Middle, shared the land acknowledgement piece. And her question was, do we have one? And so it caused us all to research, and we put it really in her space. She's part of the Equity Council. So she's been meeting with all of the individuals who would be able to tell us whose land do we sit on. So that's just research in and of itself. She's organized a speaker for the very next Equity Council. And what the Equity Council decided is we'd like to acknowledge, one, we'd like to know, and two, we'd like to acknowledge formally. So this will be coming back to the board in November at the very first meeting. But I'll leave it to you to discuss if this is something that you'd be open to entertaining. And then expect for it at the next meeting. And if not, then we will not be bringing this particular topic back. I'll turn it back over to the board president.
Dr. Mickelson.
I'm supportive. That's all.
Mrs. Bowley.
I would love an invitation to that equity meeting to hear that presentation. And I'm very curious of what lands we do sit on, as I know Kansas was definitely Native American territory before, so I am supportive as well.
Thank you.
Dr. Brombeck.
Does this involve reparations? Like in Africa, nobody could own land. It's why they owned people and gave away slaves. And I don't think an individual in a tribe owned land, but tribes occupied it. But this will be educational.
I think Ms. Stuart Campbell was before you.
Oh, I was just going to say, I absolutely support this and I look forward to learning more about the project.
I don't know much about this, but I think it deserves our looking into this. And Google's my friend, and I'm sure lots of you all are your friends. I'm at nativegov.org, and there's a guide to Indigenous land acknowledgement. Again, that's nativegov.org. And it has a lot of tips on starting with self-reflection, like why are we doing this? And so being clear on our intention with this, as well as doing our homework and a lot of other things. Build authentic, real relationships with Indigenous people. And so I encourage my colleagues to look at this. I'll send this out to everybody to help us sort of get our minds around the things that we might want to think about as we move forward on this, and look forward to hearing back from the Equity Council. In fact, I look forward to participate in the Equity Council here shortly.
I'm in favor of moving forward with it.
Thank you. What we might go ahead and do for Equity Council, we don't always do this. We do tape the meetings, but this may be a great one to also live stream. We'll also be looking at the K-State professor coming, but I'm most excited about seeing if some of our students, our Native American students, can attend as well. On the Governor's Commission, we do have the representatives for our Native American populations on that. So we're looking forward to just educating our entire community around what this is and how we continue to acknowledge all groups across Kansas. Thank you so much. And that does conclude the information we wanted to bring forward, sir.
All right, you went the other way around. Okay. Yeah. So I tried it last time and it was just overwhelming. I'm going to try again. I'm not going to give up. I've being that October is Principals Appreciation Month, I've set up meetings with almost all of the principals in our district who I haven't yet met. And so from now until February, I'm going to be in meetings every week with the principal, getting to know them, getting to know their school. So I'm really looking forward to it. I've already started. I've been to Highland Park Central. I've been to all of the schools within the district, first district, but I was at Quincy and Lowman Hill. And so I'll be at another place tomorrow, and just getting to know, how school is going first off for the principals, acknowledging all their hard work. How is school going for teachers and for staff and for the students, and hearing back on what the school year has been like so far. Other than that, I think Friday we were at an event at Scott Magnet. Dr. Anderson and I were learning how to do a dance with one of the dance groups there, Ballet Folklorico. So that was interesting. It wasn't pretty, but it was interesting. Yesterday I spent my time serving food to teachers during parent-teacher conferences. So as the parents were meeting with their teachers and the teachers were finding time to have dinner, last evening I didn't cook. The moms cooked all the wonderful food. I just helped to serve that. But just one small way to show our appreciation for teachers and the work they do, especially right now during parent-teacher conferences. So that is what I have been up to and what I plan to be up to over the next couple of months.
Yeah, I was going to talk about parent-teacher conferences also, which I attended yesterday for middle school and then today for high school. And I was reminded yet again of how dedicated and amazing our teachers are. Conferences were very organized, very pleasant, fun. So it was a good time. And it also got me thinking about what more can we do with this teacher shortage, not just in our beloved Topeka Public Schools, but across the nation. Like, what more can we do to incentivize our local talent? I recently met a junior whose who wants to be a teacher. She's planning to go to college and get her teaching degree. And she was telling me how she wants to come back to Topeka Public Schools. She loves this district. She even told me what school she wants to teach at. And but she had some concerns about just the costs of college. And it just got me thinking, like, what more? It's just something I'd like for us to talk more about, is how we can incentivize, like possibly some kind of tuition assistance, something for our local talent to bring them back to Topeka Public Schools when they graduate. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Mrs. Bowley.
I have my list again. Sorry. I wanted to talk about our Kansas Can Tour that came through, and many of our staff and local elected people were there, and our State Board of Education attended it as well. And it was just very encouraging to see how well our strategic plan lines up with what Kansas Can is planning and has been putting in place. And so many of the things that they have a big interest in and a big push, I can say that Topeka Public Schools has done an excellent job of lining up with the Kansas Board of Education and their dreams for Kansas students. So congratulations to us for being so foresighted, because I know we've been working on that plan for a long time and been building on it. And so we've done a good job of aligning ourselves. I wanted to give some kudos to our board member, Lalo Munoz. He was in the TK Business magazine, and it was a really nice article about him. So congratulations, Lalo. We're so proud of you. It's great to have such an involved community person on our board. Thank you. I really enjoyed the first student broadcast. I don't know how many people were able to see that, but the production level was so high. The students were so professional. I know it's taped, probably not live, but they were so good. There might have been many takes, but the finished product was beautiful. And I bet you anything is as professional as they were, there weren't very many takes. They did an excellent job. I look forward to the next one. I love that we're using that broadcasting situation that we have at Bishop to be able to put on so many great videos for information and for our students. I attended the Chase Middle School's production of The Big Bad. How fun was that? It was very fun. The principal, I got to sit beside her, and she was just so proud of the students. There was one young man that received his part like a day or so ahead of the production. And so he had a script. He was reading from a script, and I looked at her and I said, look how well we've taught that young man to read. He did an excellent job covering at the last minute and stepping in. That's courageous. So that was very fun. Speaking of that, I know sometimes we receive a calendar of school activities that are going to happen. I would love to have one of those if that can be sent to me, because I miss the Topeka High Hall of Fame, where one of our own teachers, Mr. Antone, was inducted. And so that was very exciting, and I wished I had been there. It's my own fault. That would be great. Show me exactly where those are. And I want to thank the city fire department for showing up at Robinson. They had a problem-solving situation where they had to drop an egg from a 3-story building and had to devise a container to keep the egg from breaking. And they realized that they didn't really have a 3-story situation. So the fire department came out and brought their ladder out, and they were dropping the eggs from that. And it was just really exciting to see the students figure out how to protect that egg. Those are the things that we really want from our students, is that problem solving piece. Advisor Excel, how do we ever thank them? Coming to Sheldon and helping the students have brand new shoes and coats for the winter. And the video that the district site put up just showed the excitement of the students picking out their shoes, picking out their coats, and all the volunteers from Advisors Excel helping there. I believe today they put on a pumpkin patch at Ross. It must have been yesterday. Just so many things that they do for us. So we really appreciate that support. Dr. Anderson, congratulations being elected to the Sparks Committee by the governor. So we appreciate your representation as always for Topeka Public Schools. You always do such a nice job for us, representing us. T-Mobile is allowing hotspots again. So they are donating through some grant money and other that every student in our district will be connected somehow for their homework, for conferences, for whatever they need. So that is just so wonderful that our district has done everything possible to connect our families during this time and any time. You know, I keep wanting to thank the teachers for all the efforts that they're putting in. I want you to know that the school board sees you. We see your efforts. And, you know, thank you is just not enough. A lot of those words have been thrown around. I think I saw something today that I wanted to read. We're in an unfortunate situation where, as a public foundation, basically, where we run on tax money, we can't pay for every single minute of overtime. We do our best to pay for what we can, and our incentive pay is just out of this world. And we hope that you understand that that is a thank you. But you know, those words just aren't enough, and they're said so many times that sometimes we don't feel them like we should. And I read this, it says, I wish you all bravery, stamina, and the knowledge that your hard work is the good work, the best work, the needed work that our society needs from you. And you are doing such amazing things during a pandemic. And I want you to know that the board sees you and understands the efforts that you're putting in. And I don't know how we'll ever be able to show our appreciation, but understand we see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mickelson.
One of the downsides of going after Mrs. Boley is she steals all my thunder. I was going to thank or acknowledge Dr. Anderson's appointment to the broadband committee, appointment by the governor, and also thank Advisors Excel publicly for their contribution and generosity to help our students. I was impressed by the video we saw this morning, or earlier this evening, on the custodians, and specifically Mr. Jefferson, his 38-year tenure in Topeka Public Schools. And one of the things that struck me was his appreciation for his job, and that he could see the fruits of his labor. And it reminded me of when I was in college. I worked summers construction, and that was a hard job. I wasn't used to physical labor. I was used to more mental labor. In fact, the two guys I worked for made a bet after my first day if I was going to come back on the second day. I did. I kept going back, but one of the things I enjoyed about that job, we were doing additions to homes at Fort Riley, and you got done at the end of the day, you were tired, and you could look back and you could see something physically that you did. And there's days where I go home from work and I know I'm trying to be productive and a good employee, but some days I always wonder, do I get anything done today? So I appreciate that comment from Mr. Jefferson. And then this week I attended the Topeka Public Schools Foundation Investment Committee. I've served on that committee for most of my tenure on the school board, so 8 years now, and that meets quarterly. It's a wonderful committee to serve on which to serve. Ms. Pamela Johnson Betts coordinates the committee, and I hear quarterly. It's usually over the noon hour, and now with COVID, it's all remote, which I appreciate because it's more efficient for me that way during the day. But this was my last meeting, so somebody else is going to need to take this meeting assignment, and so I'm speaking it up. But I get to listen to financial experts that invest the foundation money. There's an economist from Clayton Wealth Partners, James Walden. I think we're going to actually hear from them next meeting. They give an annual report, and it's coming up next meeting or the following meeting. And I sort of just listen and take notes and look at my own portfolio, and hopefully can retire someday, but it's been an interesting committee, and so if you have an interest, then I would certainly encourage you to express that desire to whomever makes those appointments. But it's been a good committee, and I'm appreciative of those people who've allowed me to listen intently and take notes. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Baumbrake.
This is a stressful time. School administrators, teachers, and support staff take their responsibility to students in the community very intently and seriously. We all signed up to work with children to attempt to teach them, love them, and help them grow and evolve. We can get through this together, but let's do it holding hands and not hand grenades. That's all I have. You've heard enough from me tonight.
Thank you. Well, my comments are, I second all of those previous comments. Last night I went to Williams and Ross to kind of observe parents-teacher conference activities, and I had asked as far as involvement from the parents in terms of scheduling conferences, and they had a high rate. They were pleased with the turnout. There were a lot of Zoom conferences, which was, something that was new to me, but I'm glad to see that parents were taking advantage of that technology to find out what's going on with their students. And then this past Sunday, Ms. Bowley mentioned Topeka High School's Hall of Fame induction. I was there doing double duty as a school board member, but also my wife's first cousin was one of the inductees, Marion Knight Douglas, who passed away back in February. But it was a bittersweet moment, but we were still proud. So, and with that, is there anything else that needs to come before the board? If not,